My guest today is Mike Shelton. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, David. Really good. How about yourself today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago,
Hmm.
and you're in suburban Chicago. I know that.
I am, yeah, and it
And
is
you're on my
gorgeous.
team. We're
Yes.
coworkers. Tell the world what you do for a living.
Well, yeah, David. So as you mentioned, we're on the same team. So I am a solution architect, focused on partners in the Americas region.
Me too.
And my focus area, my solution area I focus on is data and AI, but my focus is primarily on the data platform. And I've been doing a lot of work lately with our operational databases and operational databases focused on supporting AI applications as well.
That's awesome. I'll tell the world that you are my go-to expert on the Microsoft data platform. If I've got questions, you're the first person I think of to ask.
Very good.
Let's talk about something that isn't traditionally Microsoft, PostgreSQL, and because I know you know a lot about that, and you're working with it quite a bit. And I want to just point out that I did a show on PostgreSQL a couple of years ago with Ryan Booz. This is show number 746. If anybody's interested in watching that, and he scolded me because I said PostgreSQL, and it's not pronounced that. It's either Postgres or PostgreSQL. Apparently, Postgres folks are really sensitive about that.
Yeah, a couple of different ways to refer to it for sure.
All right. Um, what is PostgreSQL?
Yeah, so Postgres is an open source database. It's been around for quite a while, but it's really been growing in popularity lately. It's growing in its enterprise capabilities, growing in its developer capabilities. And one of the things that's really interesting with Postgres that allows it to adapt regularly and quickly is this idea of extensions. And Postgres has a notion of adding extensions which extend the functionality of the core database without having to modify the core engine. So it allows the database platform to grow in its features and functions. And we can talk a little bit later about some of the AI capabilities, but this is a way of rapidly innovating and advancing the Postgres ecosystem.
Yeah, that's the world is moving that way. Lots of software products are, rather than adding new features to the product themselves, they're making it extensible and letting third parties or community members extend it that way. Keep the product itself simple and
Yeah,
extend it
definitely.
through the ecosystem of it. And Postgres seems to follow that model. So Postgres, does somebody own Postgres? Is it a commercial product like SQL Server?
No, it's open. It's open source.
Okay, but there is a Microsoft offering of Postgres, correct?
Yeah, definitely. So Microsoft has an offering in Azure. So there's a couple of offerings, but one that we'll talk about today is Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server. So it's a managed offering in Azure. So you can run open source Postgres in Azure, and much of the administration, management, maintenance, things like backup and recovery, other aspects are handled through the Azure capability, which is delivered as platform as a service.
Okay. Uh, and what is there anything special about running Postgres on Azure as opposed to running it, say, on-prem or some other platform?
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, since it's platform as a service, there are many of the aspects that are addressed for you when you look at maintenance. As an example, minor version upgrades are handled for you. There's a variety of surrounding services within Azure that make it very easy for you to monitor performance or monitor the aspects of the engine. There's a bunch of HA or high availability disaster recovery capabilities that are brought to the ecosystem to allow you to better manage and better run Postgres.
Well, high availability and disaster recovery are things that I often think about when I think about the clouds, just to advantage that. What specifically is available for high availability for Postgres on Azure?
Yeah, so in Azure with Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server, there's a few different things that we can take advantage of from a high availability and disaster recovery perspective. So first, Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server fully supports availability zones. And availability zones in Azure allow you to separate your resources within the same region, but they're different data centers. So it really helps if there's an issue or an outage in the data center itself. So with Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server, you can instantiate two different servers in the different availability zones. So those are kept synchronized as a synchronous copy. So that way, if the one goes down, then you have another one as a backup or availability uh, server that you can fail over to. There's also read replicas, and read replicas allow you to scale out for read or read intensive workloads. So you can leverage the replication copy for reads, as well as you can create a read replica in another region. So now in this case, it's synchronized as an asynchronous copy. So there is a
Wait.
bit,
Synchronized as an asynchronous copy.
that's
Define that.
right. So there's a bit of a lag there. So it's not guaranteeing the writes occur at the same time in both
I got it.
locations.
Okay.
So it synchronizes the database copies asynchronously
In near real time.
in near real time. So there is a bit of a lag, but then in that case, you're not dependent on the performance of the primary while the secondaries are being updated. And then you can then also, which is important when you're doing a geo distributed copy, because there may be a bit of latency in getting the data to the other side. So now you can have replicas that you can use for read only, and then you can also use it for disaster recovery. And in this case, if there's an issue, you would initiate the failover to the standby copy. And
Got it.
then
Okay.
one other,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I
I'll
was going
just
to summarize that they mentioned three advantages to having these replications. One is just to scale out, so that people, if you've got lots of people trying to read data at the same time, they're not
Mhm.
all hitting the same server. Two
Yeah,
is geographic dispersal. So if you've got some folks in Asia, some in Europe, and some in North America, then they can just hit the server that's closest to them and decrease the latency. And the third is this disaster recovery you talk about. If one of those servers happens to go down,
yeah,
uh, say for a hardware problem, for example, then they can fail over to one of the other servers and remain the applications that rely on that data will remain available. So high availability is the third one. Is that did I summarize everything properly?
yeah, yeah. That sounds perfect. That sounds
All
great.
right, please continue. I want to make sure I got it.
No, no, that's perfect. It's good. Otherwise, I just keep talking away with all this
That's all right.
exciting
This is your
capability.
show.
No, no. So just one thing else to add as it relates to high availability disaster recovery is backups. So backups are automatically taken. You can define or decide what duration you want, anywhere from 1 to 35 days from a retention perspective. The default is 7, but it gives you a great opportunity to get backups of your database and not having to do the backup process yourself.
Oh, got it. So this answers my question about why put Postgres on Azure as opposed to just running it yourself. You freeing yourself from things like maintaining backups, maintaining that high availability, extra servers, um, the updates, software updates to Postgres itself, all that stuff, which I call the plumbing, which is
Yep,
probably not core to your business, but has
yep,
to get done. You're letting
yep,
somebody else do that. So
yep,
now you have time to build your application, to build your database, to
yep.
do the things that are core to your business.
Exactly, exactly. And then on the updates, the minor updates are handled for you. And then major upgrades would be done by the customer or the partner, who then can decide when they want to do a major version upgrade, say from Postgres 16 to Postgres 17 as an example.
Okay,
And then there's capabilities to assist through that process, but that would be something that would be initiated by the customer.
that makes sense. That might break compatibility with your client applications.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Now, let's talk about AI. Everybody's talking about AI, and there's some cool things happening in Postgres regarding this. Yes?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned earlier, this idea of this extension system or this extension ecosystem. So yeah, Postgres is being leveraged for a variety of use cases or scenarios for AI applications. So one of the capabilities is this extension called pgvector. And what pgvector allows you to do is store vector embeddings. So a vector itself is a numerical representation of text or an image or some aspect that you would then want to be able to leverage in a, say, a generative AI application. So pgvector allows the storing of these vectors, and then or these vector embeddings, and then as well as doing a similarity search. So now that you're storing these vector embeddings, you want to be able to find the matches, and we do that through a similarity search. And pgvector supports a variety of different search mechanisms in order to identify the similarity between what your question might be or what you're searching for and what's stored inside the database. So this extension provides that capability. In addition to not only storing the vectors and then searching for the vector embeddings, but as well as creating indexes on those vector embeddings. And there's a variety of ways of doing that. IVF flat is a common approach to creating indexes on vectors. HNSW is another common approach to doing creating these vectors indexes. But as well in Azure, which was developed by Microsoft, Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server has what's called diskANN, which is an additional index type that really boosts performance and manages the resources, or I should say optimizes the resources that you would have in the database in order to provide indexing as well as getting high recall and being able to do that similarity search. So those are a couple of approaches for storing, searching, indexing the vector embeddings. Now, one of the other scenarios is how do you then create these vector embeddings, which are typically done through using an LLM or large language model. And what Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server has another extension that's called Azure AI that allows you to, from within the database, call out to Azure OpenAI to create these embeddings, as well as potentially using other of the cognitive services that would be in Azure in order to do things like sentiment analysis or other types of aspects that you might want to do against your data. So by leveraging Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server in Azure, you're getting a much richer capability for storing these embeddings, as well as using other aspects of Azure or the broader ecosystem altogether.
Got it. By the way, Cognitive Services has been rebranded now. It's now called AI Services or Azure AI Services. We keep rebranding things I think it's to sell more T-shirts. I think that's why we do it.
Perhaps.
So I think what I'm hearing is Postgres by default is a relational database, but what these extensions do, at least the first one you mentioned does, is it adds the capabilities of a vector database to what was traditionally a relational database. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's correct. Definitely.
Awesome. Anything else around AI that is going on that you're working with?
Well, there's a variety of solution accelerators within Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server that allows you to do other types of scenarios. So GraphRag is a potential opportunity. So the age extension that allows you to do the graph storage inside of Azure Database for Postgres is something that you could take advantage of. There's a solution accelerator for that as well. Semantic re-ranking, there's a solution accelerator that you could take advantage of to do semantic re-ranking based on the result sets that you get back in your similarity search. So, and this is a quick evolving and rapidly innovating area that more and more things are coming from these various different aspects. And really, the idea of these solution accelerators is to help customers get started quickly, learn and adopt these capabilities.
Speaking of learning, are there good resources out there for folks that want to learn more?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Azure Database for Postgres blog is a great place I go to regularly to get updated on various different news or information that's coming out. Microsoft sponsors a virtual conference called POSET that has a variety of sessions on for Postgres for the community. So there's really great content there. That session just occurred recently, as well as Microsoft Learn. There's some learning modules on the environment that you can take advantage of in that aspect as well.
Awesome. I'll find that, put links in the show notes to those things.
Yeah, I'll make sure you
And
have those as well.
yeah, is there anything we haven't talked about you feel is critical for listeners to know?
Well, I think one other thing just to highlight is the performance aspects of Azure Database for Postgres Flexible Server. There's a variety of compute SKUs that you can take advantage of and then you can scale your environment up and down. You can start and stop the environment if you want to save resources, depending on what you're doing. So it's great from a developer perspective. There's a new extension in VS Code that's coming, really helping developers write and manage the Postgres environment. It ties in with GitHub Copilot, so that's a newer capability. It's in preview right now, but that's continuing to evolve to really help the developer do great code and great SQL queries going against the environment, as well as other performance aspects in Azure Database for Postgres, such as the query store, which help you identify what your queries are doing, query patterns, understand various different aspects of the query environment as well. So great from a performance perspective to really help DBAs as well as developers really understand what's going on in the database, as well as scaling to the appropriate levels that you would have inside of your needs or your requirements.
Wow, there's a lot going on in Postgres for Azure right
There,
now.
there is
Uh,
definitely.
and you've opened my eyes to a lot of that stuff. So thank you so much for your time. I've learned a lot today. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks, David, for having me. It's always great to talk about Postgres technology with friends, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.